Good day and welcome to another edition of the short and convoluted history of. Uh, in this series so far, we've only explored communist bloc rifles, so today I'm going to do something different. Today it's going to be the iconic and classic American pistol, the M1911. I'll begin the story in the 1890s. At the time, the Americans were adopting a whole bunch of firearms, both pistols and rifles, the Krag, Smith & Wessons, Colts, whole bunch of things. And they weren't particularly satisfied with any of them. But they went to war in 1899 in the Philippines with their armaments that they had at the time. And essentially, the Philippines were annexed by the United States after their war with Spain. And the Filipinos wanted their independence, naturally. So a rebellion started, and the Americans sent in forces to put down the rebellion. Among the opponents that they faced at the time were the Moro tribesmen. And these guys were very motivated, tough opponents, and perhaps key to their success was they were high on drugs during a lot of their battles. So the standard American sidearm at the time, the 1892 pistol, it was a revolver which fired the 38 long Colt, was ineffective. They would often shoot the Moro tribesmen charging at them, and the tribesmen would not shrug off the rounds, but they weren't killed by them. So the Americans decided and realized they needed a more powerful handgun. Now during that rebellion, they experimented with a pistol that used a 45 caliber cartridge, and it turned out it was actually quite effective against the Moro tribesmen and their other opponents in the war. So the Department of War issued a tender to weapons designers saying, look, we need a pistol that fires a minimum of a 45 caliber cartridge. Also, because the technology was coming in at the time, they wanted a self-loading handgun. And that's just another way of saying a semi-automatic firearm. You pull the trigger, a round is ejected, another one is loaded into the chamber. Semi-automatic. So a bunch of designs were put forward. They went through testing, and it came down to Colt's pistol, designed by one of the greatest weapons designers of all time, John Browning, his handgun, and a handgun made by Savage. And it came down to a 2-day test where they fired 6,000 rounds in 2 days through these pistols. Anytime the pistols got really hot, all they did was take it, dunk it in a barrel of water, keep firing. The Savage had 37 failures out of 6,000 rounds, which is actually pretty good. The 1911, or what became the 1911, had 0. So it won the competition. And it was formally introduced in 1911, hence the name M1911. So it was used pretty much by the Americans from 1911 through to 1986. In 1926, a new version came out, the M1911A1. It had some minor changes to it. Unless you're an expert on 1911s, you could probably look at a 1911 and 1911A1 and not even be able to tell the difference. So, like I said, it was used in World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the first Gulf War, all the way through to 1986. Yes, I know the first Gulf War was afterwards, but they didn't completely replace their stock. It was eventually replaced by the Beretta 92F, which itself actually is now in the process of being replaced. The pistol is still being used by some American units. I know the Marine Corps Special Operations Command uses it, FBI HRT teams, Delta Force still uses this pistol, although I believe they're in the process of changing out as well now. And that's basically it. They manufactured 2.7 million of these. And police forces and militaries around the world use it because it's a fairly reliable firearm. It's got a powerful round, the 45 caliber ACP, which stands for Automatic Colt Pistol. Here's the round. It's actually a fairly sizable round. In terms of availability, you go to a gun store, you're going to see at least one 1911 for sale. You can buy them anywhere as cheaply as about $300 for a Chinese clone made by Norinco, and you can spend up to $4,000 or $5,000 for a Les Bauer custom-made match quality pistol. Ammunition can be fairly cheap, anywhere from $20 for 50 rounds to, sky's the limit if you go for specialty ammunition. And that's basically about it. It's a tremendous pistol. It is a heavier pistol because it is all metal. It's not a polymer pistol like Glocks are. And it can be difficult to control for new users because it does have substantial recoil compared to a 9mm pistol. And certainly, obviously, a 22 caliber pistol has no recoil whatsoever. And that's basically about it. It's a tremendous pistol. It's probably the most popular pistol in the world outside of Glocks. It's still got plenty of users in law enforcement and in the civilian world. Millions have been made. So many companies make these pistols these days that it would take me longer to name them all than so far the video's lasted. This one here that I have is not a Colt, which is considered the standard for 1911 pistols. This one was made by Kimber, who are a fairly high quality manufacturer of pistols. That's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this, and as always, happy shooting, safe shooting.